Okay, we're recording now. You can start, Christine.
Okay, let me just take this poll off my screen. There we go. So welcome again. Today our program is called Healthy Living for Your Brain and Body, Tips from the Latest Research. I'm Christine Spencer, as we already said, but you can call me Spence, that's my nickname, and I'm over here on Maui, logging in from Maui today. I wanted to say another mahalo to Catholic Charities Hawaii, and this program and this whole series is funded by a grant that they have. So thank you so much for this opportunity and for funding great programs like this. Okay. Something came up. Sorry, guys. Let's just move on back.
Okay, now on your marches, you can just...
Sorry, guys. We had a little... took us all through. Bear with me. Here we go. Thank you again, Catholic Charities. So let's begin our program. Today, these are just a few of the things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about why it's important to take care of ourselves as we age, and we're going to list a few different strategies. So we all age in some very similar ways. There are a lot of ways that we all age in common, right? We can all attest to maybe getting a gray hair here and there. Maybe we do forget things a little bit more. Maybe our eyesight, we might need to squint a little bit more as we age. And all of these are normal type aging things that most of us commonly go through. There's a lot of other factors that come in with aging well, and we're going to talk about those on the next slide. But just to let you know, when we talk about brain health, there are a lot of great strategies and tips to optimize your brain health. Today, we're going to talk about 4 main pillars that our association has really identified. And we will talk a little bit more about some others, but these are the 4 that we're really going to focus on today and really dive into. So the first one is physical health and exercise. The second one is diet and nutrition. Then we're going to talk about cognitive activity or stimulating your brain. And then we're going to touch on social engagement. In the email, you guys may have received the handbook for this class or the workbook. And you're welcome to follow along in your workbook and put some strategies and tips for yourself in there if you'd like. But just so you know, that's available to you for your planning. So as I mentioned, many different factors contribute to how we age. Genes is a factor. As we know, some families, they can live well into their 90s or 100s, while some families, they may have shorter lifespans. So there is some genetic impacts on how we age. Next is the environment. Lucky for us, we have one of the longest life expectancies here over in Hawaii. We are about 81 years old. So our environment is definitely conducive to a long lifespan, which is great. But bearing in mind that other environment factors that other people have in their lives could contribute to how well they age or don't age. And then lifestyle, and that's what we're going to talk a lot about today, and look at some research that has been done on communities of people who have different lifestyles than us, and what we can learn from that. So lifestyle, and that means, you know, exercising and what you do day to day, that's going to contribute to how you age as well. So these are all things that I'm sure you guys know about aging and what kind of things contribute to it. So we can really start by adapting healthy lifestyle habits to potentially improve not only our overall aging, but also our overall health. So today we are here to really talk about the brain, and it's not something we think about every day when it comes to our health, right? Because it's hidden way back in our heads. We don't visibly get to see how it looks, and so sometimes it's not always on our mind that we need to do things to keep our brain healthy. So I don't know if you know, but the brain is actually only 3 pounds, and it does so many things for our body. The brain is the control center of the body, as we know. There's over 100 billion nerve cells and neurons, all creating this branching network So if you look over onto the left of my slide, I just like to point this out so people can imagine what it looks like when we talk about all these neurons communicating to each other and talking to each other. And it almost looks like this tree-like branching network that we see on the slide. And all the signals are traveling through those branches and communicating to each other. This is where the brain is forming memories and thoughts and feelings. And now, we do know that Alzheimer's disease does destroy brain cells, and that's initially what really affects the brain in a lot of ways. And when I mentioned before that 3 pounds, sometimes somebody with Alzheimer's disease, their brain could even shrink down to 1.5 pounds. So it's really something to consider. How can I really protect my brain and keep it healthy for as long as I can? So right now, we have been doing a lot of great research, and we've always known that there's an incredible connection between our hearts and our brains, and that they're really, really interrelated. And so sometimes people will ask me, well, what do I do for brain health? I'm not sure. Where should I look? And I tell them, well, an easy way to think about brain health is to think about heart health. And whatever you do that's good for your heart is probably going to be really good for your brain too. And so just kind of putting it into that perspective, because what you do to protect your heart can also protect your brain. We know that the brain gets a lot of nutrients from the blood flow that comes from our heart, and the brain also operates from oxygen that's coming from our heart, and about 25% of blood from every heartbeat we have is going to our brain, so it can do all of that incredible functioning. Now, we aren't going to spend our presentation talking about dementia and Alzheimer's disease. We are going to just focus on health aspects. But since I am with the Alzheimer's Association, I just wanted to quickly address a common question and just briefly describe the disease a little bit, so you know what kind of where some of this research has come from and what we've been able to look at because of what this disease has done. So there are a lot of benefits to aging, guys. I don't want to scare you at all with this presentation. I'm sure we can all think of many benefits to aging, but basically people always say, what's the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's disease? Because I do hear people kind of change it around in the term and a little bit. So what I usually tell people is dementia is really, it's caused by many different diseases and conditions. We're gonna think of dementia as an umbrella term, and underneath it are a batch of different diseases like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, frontotemporal. I'm sure you've heard of all of these different dementias out there. So dementia is that general term for all of these different brain diseases, and Alzheimer's disease is the most common by about 70 or 80% last time I checked. You may have seen your poll question. It was question number 1, guys, and I hope that you answered that dementia and memory loss is not a normal part of aging. As I said in the beginning of our class, yes, there are things that come normally with aging, and once in a while we might forget something here and there, like a birthday or an appointment, but that's normal. Having this type of Alzheimer's disease or dementia that's really impairing your cognitive abilities, and it's a progressive decline, that is not a normal part of aging. And so that was your first question, and now you guys know the answer for later. So just quickly about Alzheimer's disease, because it is so prevalent in our communities here, there's so many risk factors for it, and everybody experiences it in a different way, the disease. Age is the #1 risk factor that we know, so people over 65 are more at risk. There have been a lot of cases, though, of younger onset Alzheimer's disease where people are developing it before 65. Genetics, as I mentioned, can be a risk factor as well. But just a little side note disclaimer, this doesn't mean you have to run out and go get a genetic test done, because those tests aren't necessarily a definitive that you will develop the disease if you have that that certain cell that they're looking for that, or the gene, I'm sorry. And then head injury, we're going to touch a little bit about that, but people that have more head injuries may be more at risk. We hear that a lot with some sports figures. Cardiovascular factors, just what I mentioned about your heart and your brain connection. So if you have underlying cardiovascular factors, this could put you at more risk for Alzheimer's or dementia. And this is an interesting part that we're going to talk about later today, fewer years of formal education. And now some research has been done in this, and it's a very interesting thing to look at, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but that is something that's been showing to increase the risk. So we know that right now, there are a lot of different therapies that can treat the symptoms, but right now nothing can cure it, nothing can prevent it, and nothing can even really slow it down. And so that's why we're here today, is because we really want to talk about holistic approaches to not only your brain health, but your overall health, and how we can just make small little changes in our life that'll really have a big impact overall. Okay, guys, so that's all you need to know right now about dementia and Alzheimer's disease. But if you do have questions, and if you want to know about what the warning signs are, or if you have someone in your family you want to communicate better with, there's so many different programs that our association offers. I know Catholic Charities has some great programs as well. So feel free to connect with us if that's a topic you'd like to learn a little bit more about. So back to our brain health. These are, as I mentioned, the 4 pillars that the association has really found the most evidence-based research on to optimize your overall health. And we're going to learn today that there really isn't one recipe for everyone, right? Everybody's different. But what they do say is it's all 4 of these things combined that's going to optimize your health most. So we're going to break them down bit by bit. But just remember that we want to try to get all of them incorporated into our lives. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is physical health and exercise. And the CDC, if you go to their website, they do have up there a recommended amount of minutes per week that everybody should exercise. And this was one of your other survey questions, guys, and I tricked you a little bit there. The actual recommendation from the CDC is 150 minutes. So not 100, I just took it down a little, 150 minutes. So that is about 5 days a week of 30 minutes. But the good news is you don't have to do all 30 minutes at once in one day. If you want to break it down into 10 minutes throughout the day, that's good too. So just really thinking about not the overwhelming task of doing your 150 minutes every week, but really thinking about things that you enjoy that can just kind of build into those minutes. Now, there's a lot of different research about the best kind of exercise for the brain out there. It's all really interesting, and there's quite a lot of new things coming out as far as lower impact exercise. But really what we know now is the exercise that the brain benefits the most from is that cardiovascular activity. And cardiovascular activity means when you do exercise that gets your heart beating a little bit faster. So aerobics or dancing or you know, even running or walking really fast, that's what cardiovascular is. So the good thing about this cardiovascular activity is, as I mentioned before, the brain and heart connection, we're going right back to that, is when you're doing that exercise, your brain is pumping more blood and oxygen to the brain. And so that's why they recommend the cardio for the brain health. They do say that this, if you are able to keep up this routine, it'll really help your overall blood flow, and that it'll really yield to some good health benefits. So as I said, there is no single recipe. If you don't have a cardiovascular activity that you like, I say, you know, some exercise is better than no exercise, right? So even something like walking is great for your brain health. So just bearing in mind, if you can get that cardio though, that would be great. So just a few tips to help you get started, guys, if you're not already. And I have to say, I'm not a fitness coach, so I wish I could give you some good pep talk here, but I do know that for myself, some things that I've done to motivate myself to get into a good routine, and I really took some things from this slide personally. And the first one is do something you like. And I'll tell you why this really worked for me. I would sometimes dread going to the gym or doing something like that. I think we've all been there. And I was, oh, I really don't want to do that today. But when I switched it in my mind to an activity that I love, so instead of going to the gym, I decided I was going to walk on the beach. And that was exercise, but it wasn't exercise that I was actually dreading. Not that, I love the gym too, but some days you just might not feel motivated. So when you feel that way, just say, what do I like to do? And what can I do that doesn't feel like exercise or a chore? I'm just going to give you guys 30 seconds here to get a little bit introspective about doing what you like. Can you think to yourself, 2 physical activities, maybe you haven't done it in a long time, but could you think of 2 things that you really like to do? Just in your mind. This is where I want you to kind of go to when you're thinking, oh, I don't want to work out today. You can say, oh, I love doing this. I'm going to do it today. So I just want you to think about that, guys. Doing something that you really, really enjoy. Starting out small is the next tip. And I mentioned it a little bit with those 150 minutes that we have to accomplish every week. You don't have to start, and I recommend you don't start out trying to get to 150 minutes next week. As with anything, you really want to just start in smaller increments and really set yourself up for success. So maybe over the next month, you walk for 50 or you exercise for 50 minutes. And then the next week you increase it to 75 minutes. And eventually you'll get to that 150. But just like anything, don't start out too big with your exercise plans. The smaller and more accomplishable things will really help you start that journey. Moving safely. Just bearing in mind that especially when we age, there's a lot of different contributing factors that we want to pay attention to. Sometimes when we age, our balance could be affected in several ways, maybe even our vision. So any activity that you do, just make sure that it's something you can do safely. It's always good to also talk to your doctor, or if you have a physical therapist who knows something about any issues you might have, to really do that. So starting small and moving safely are really the good takeaway tips for this. And then, of course, trying to get that heart rate up, trying to get our cardiovascular activity as much as we can, even if that's just 1 day a week. Like I said, anything is better than nothing. So asking friends to join you, I know it's a little bit tricky in our current environment, but the good thing about, and this is one tip that I have done, asking friends to join you is you have somebody who's accountable for your exercising. So in this time, you can just do that by calling a friend and saying, okay, let's commit to each other that we're both going to take a walk on Friday. And that's just having that extra accountability, or not wanting to report back to somebody that you didn't do it, really helps and can be a really motivating factor. So I encourage you to find your exercise buddy that you can chat with on the phone or even email things to. And then, as I just mentioned, check with your doctor before you start, as we all know. Some really important things to consider for your brain health that has to do with physical health as well are things that you probably have heard from various sources before. Stop smoking. And this is actually a really important one, because studies have actually found that smoking can increase the risk of cognitive decline and may increase the risk of dementia. So those are the facts there, guys. And so there are a lot of reasons to quit smoking, of course. But if you need that extra motivation, just think about your little 3-pound brain up there who could really benefit from it. Of course, we also know that avoiding excess alcohol is good. It would be good for our overall health. It does have a lot of different effects on the brain. It could sometimes slow or impair our communication, and it could cause some long-term changes in our balance and our memory and things like that. And so we are going to talk just a little bit about the Mediterranean diet. And they say it's okay to have wine in your diet at a moderate level. So just knowing that that it's okay, but we're going to really take it into moderation and not in excess. Getting adequate sleep is such a great and easy way to take care of your brain, guys. And really, all you have to do is sleep. And what I do is I try to at least set 2 days a week in my week where I'm going to get a full 8 hours of sleep. What is really important about sleep, aside from all of the benefits that it can be for us physically and, you know, what we do each day, is our brain actually does need some time when we're sleeping to have some time to kind of clean out some debris, or to really have some housekeepers in there working around while we sleep. And so maintaining some really good sleep routines and patterns is very important. They've actually had studies that have shown that people who have sleeping conditions like apnea could be more prone to getting dementia because of this disruption in sleeping on a daily basis. We talk about avoiding head injuries. So if biking is part of your plan to exercise, please make sure you wear your helmet. So important to protect our head for our brain health. Managing stress, and you guys will see this. I do apologize that flyer we sent for the 10 ways to love your brain wasn't the right format, but I will resend it, and you will see these strategies on there, because as I mentioned in the beginning, we're just focusing on 4, but all of these are also part of it as well. So treating depression and visiting your doctor regularly are also part of that. And you'll see the flyer when we send it after class. And that way you can also pick some other areas that you might want to focus on in addition to these 4. So monitoring our numbers is also really important for our brain. A lot of people think it's just for my heart health, but actually monitoring your numbers is really important for your brain health because they are so interconnected, right? So managing and monitoring our blood pressure, it's a really important thing. Studies have shown that this could actually increase risk for some heart diseases. And when we are increasing risk for heart disease, we could be increasing risk for brain disease. So blood pressure is a really important thing. And there have been a lot of different studies that show that. Blood sugar as well. Weight, interesting enough, research done on treatments to reduce research has found that midlife obesity may be associated with an increased risk of dementia. So that gives us even more motivation to stay in shape in our midlives as well. And then of course, cholesterol and managing that is part of keeping our brain health. So just remembering that we're not just monitoring numbers for our heart, we also want to keep these numbers in really good check for our brains. So very quickly, because I know you guys have been here listening to me for almost 30 minutes now, we're not going to do a workout together, but I did want to share with you just something really fun that this fitness instructor on Maui, her name is Paula Keel. Some of you may have heard of her. She works for the Maui County Office on Aging, and she's been an aerobics instructor and teaching fitness for 40 years. And, oops, sorry about the typo there, but she has been studying brain health. She's really interested in how exercise affects our brain health. And so what I did here was she just showed us a simple exercise you can do in your chair. So she's just going to start with a march, and you're welcome to do this as long as you can move safely. But you'll see what she did here. She's going to incorporate a little bit of coordination into this march and arm movement exercise, and it'll just kind of trick your brain a little bit. When she first did it, I couldn't quite do it. It was a little bit harder than I thought it would be. So don't worry, guys. We're not going to judge you on this, but I like how she is bringing in a little bit of cognitive activity with daily exercise. And now there's not a lot of research on this yet, I will say, but I wanted to pull this in just for some fun. It's only 3 minutes long, so get ready just to do a little moving and a little coordination. Here we go. Oh, let's make sure it's at the beginning.
Okay, now on your marches,
March
you
along,
can just
guys.
lift your heels. That would be the easiest. Or you can take your knees up a little bit higher. The highest you get them, the more the heart rate's going to go up. Yeah, let's try another coordination one. Okay, right arm. It's going to go up and then out, then down, and then out. So up, out, down, out, up, out, down, and out. One more. Up, out, down. Now the other arm's going to go up and down. So up and down, up and down. Okay, so now while you're doing this, I want you to think about what you did with your other arm. And then we're going to say it out loud. Ready? Here we go. Up, out, down, out, up, out, down. When you're ready, put them together. Are you still laughing? Try it again. Up, up, down, and out. Couple more times. Ready? Up, out, down. One more. That's it. Okay, no arms. Step side to side. Step.
That's great. You know, I really love how you add in a little bit of that cognitive activity or brain exercise while you're doing some body exercise. Those are great
and
tips.
you know, here, let me take this off. There's so much you can do, like just even when you walk, when you go out for a walk. I was thinking about the other day when I was on my walk, because I love to walk in the morning. And there's just so much to pay attention to what's going on around you, and how, you know, one day I spent the whole walk focusing on the color combinations of all the houses in the neighborhood. How many were green, how many were white, and how many had blue trim or white trim. And then another day I focused on mailboxes. You know, and just looking and seeing the differences and seeing what my neighbors have, you know, things that I had never paid attention to before. But I think it's just little things like that that can really, you know, be great for the brain. Or sometimes, you know, I'll make up little sayings. Like I have this one that I use. I have a couple of steep hills in my neighborhood, and then I'll say to myself, I can make it to the top, just keep going and do not stop, you know, and just, you know, make up stuff, make up poems, make up songs or whatever when you're out walking. There's a lot of ways that you can use your brain in other ways that maybe you don't think of when you're doing just something simple like walking.
Great. So I hope you guys had fun with that. I just wanted to break away from our official presentation and just have you think about also, you know, just a fun thing to do while you're walking. And I really like this concept as well. But we are going to talk a little bit later in our presentation about what is really high quality, though, cognitive activity. This is a great thing to do just to keep a little bit of stimulation. But we're really going to get into some activities that we know are high quality and can lead to some protectiveness to our brain. Okay.
Okay, now on your marches.
Guys, let me just get this. There we go. Okay, so next we are going to talk about diet and nutrition. And I like to tell people not to think of it so much as a diet, but more of a lifestyle, because we, you know, that word diet can be a little bit discouraging sometimes. So we're going to talk more about a lifestyle changes that we can do today, because research has actually shown that there is a relationship between diet and cognitive functioning. It is somewhat limited, but it does point to the benefit of two diets in particular. That first diet that it talks about is the DASH diet. You guys may have heard about that one. It's dietary approaches to stop hypertension, and it's pretty flexible and it's a balanced eating plan, but studies have shown that this DASH diet can lower blood pressure and improves levels of blood, lipids in the bloodstream, the fats in the bloodstream, and it may reduce the risk of developing cardiovascular disease. So because this is a healthy way of eating, it offers a lot of other potential health benefits as well, such as lowering your risk for heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and so forth. So that's the first one, DASH, D-A-S-H. Now the next one is one that I really like talking about because I like to pretend I'm in the Mediterranean. This is the Mediterranean diet. And this is a diet that our association has found some really great research on. In fact, the research took place, and it was an analysis of more than 1.5 million healthy adults. And what it showed was that this Mediterranean diet could reduce the risk of death from heart disease and cancer, and may also reduce the incidences of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. So that's what the research showed. That's a really large number of people that we're looking at. And I don't know if any of you have ever been over to Europe or the Mediterranean area, but what's so interesting about that area, and what are those people doing so differently than us? Well, just a few facts about the Mediterranean, because before we dive into what is on the diet, but some of you guys may know the Mediterranean, it's bordered by 22 different countries. And these are the countries of the people that we really looked at, their lifestyles and these contributing factors. Some of those countries are France, Spain, Greece, Lebanon, Egypt. The list goes on and on. And what's so interesting about their lifestyle and what they do differently? Well, there is over 700 species of fish in the Mediterranean Sea. And so we're going to talk about how fish is a big part of their diet as well. But that's just a little bit about these 1.5 million people who are over in this beautiful place called the Mediterranean, who I hope we all someday can visit. But today we're going to virtually step into that Mediterranean lifestyle a little bit, guys. So as same when it comes to diet, whatever they say is good for your heart is most likely also good for your brain. We know that our brain, it really does need nutritious fuel to feed it. So we have to make sure we are getting the right vitamins and nutrients just for our brain to function. And we do know that research has shown that if you can implement some of these dietary guidelines, you really can reduce your risk for some of these heart diseases, cancers, and as I mentioned before. So a healthy diet can really help you increase your intake of important vitamins. Research has shown that vitamins like vitamin E and C together, and vitamin B12 could lower your risk of cognitive decline and possibly Alzheimer's disease. So just thinking about foods that we can get those really good vitamins from. So this is just a kind of a cheat sheet or a quick kind of summary of the things that we are included in this diet. So things that we can eat. You'll see vegetables over on that list. Lots of green leafy vegetables are what they recommend for optimizing the brain health. They also say to have a diet that's rich in a lot of fruits. There's a lot of different vitamins that you can get from fruits. So really a huge emphasis on vegetables and fruits, and how can we increase our servings of that per day. Nuts, beans, and whole grains are on the diet. I know nuts can be sometimes really expensive. So another alternative to nuts could be seeds, pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds. Those could be an alternative to nuts because they are very expensive, nuts sometimes. Beans, a great thing to have around, either dried or in your pantry, because they've got a lot of great things for our brain. And also whole grains. When I say whole grains, basically that means when I think about whole grains, I think about the color of what it is. And so when we talk about a whole grain, it would be a brown rice instead of a white rice. It would be, instead of a soda cracker, it would be a cracker that might have seeds in it or more grains in it. So thinking about the whole grain side of things, sometimes it's easy to think, is this really white and processed, or does it still have some color in it? Because sometimes that could mean it's got more whole grains in it. As I mentioned, the diet focuses a lot on the lean meats. And we do know this about heart health too. They tell us not to eat too much red meat in our diets. Same goes for brain health, and the Mediterranean diet is focusing on lean meats, fish, and poultry. Now people do ask about fish. And we do need to be careful of the fish we eat because of mercury and different things. And as anything, you always should talk to your physician if you're really going to change your diet up. But the fish that they focus on a lot is those fishes that have the omega-3 fatty acid in it, like salmon. That's a really good fish for brain health. And there is still research about omega-3 fatty acids. And I will say there's both sides of the coin. It's not definitive yet, the research on omega-3s, but the research that we have seen, there has been research to show that people that have lower levels of omega-3 may be more at risk or have a little bit more cognitive decline. So as I said, the research isn't definitive on omega-3 yet, but those are the kind of fats that you want to go for when you're thinking about fish. And then vegetable oils. Olive oil is the oil that they really promote the most instead of using some other oils out there. So I'll briefly breeze through the right side because we all know the things that we shouldn't eat, but there are a lot of things that we love. The trans fats, the processed foods. I don't know if you know many people who may live in other parts of the world, like the Mediterranean, but looking into their pantry, I have a friend that lives in Italy. When I went to visit and I looked into the pantry, there was not the same stuff in there like I have in my crackers, my snacks, and all those little things that I love. It just wasn't really part of the culture there, all of these snacks and processed foods that we eat. So just thinking about that. Solid fats and sugars and salts, that's all something we know as well that we should avoid. And then unhealthy fast foods, right? So it's not very different than any other kind of diet or lifestyle choices out there. But a lot of great research has been shown on the effects of eating healthy like this. I just wanted to give a quick tip to you guys because I do talk about this Mediterranean diet a lot for work and I had to try it out. I had to give it a try, right? It's something I talk about. Is it, can I implement it? How does it go? What does it feel like? So just as exercising, if you want to incorporate a healthier diet in your life, just start small. And so what I did was I just started doing the Mediterranean diet Monday through Thursday. And then I would have, the weekends to kind of eat what other things that weren't on the diet. One tip that I tell people is when you change your diet, sometimes it can involve a lot of prepping and cooking and all of those things. And so, especially when you're trying to incorporate a lot of vegetables into your life. And so picking one day a week where you can do all of your food prepping and getting things ready, all of your chopping of vegetables, because we know we need a lot of those, and planning that in one day. So those are just two of my tips for starting small. Another tip is if you really want to implement this kind of Mediterranean lifestyle into your life, I went into my pantry and I opened it up and I looked at all the different canned things that I had in there. The good news about this Mediterranean lifestyle is you don't have to spend that much money to eat healthy. There's a lot of things you can get in cans. Of course, you want to rinse out everything in the cans, but things like diced tomatoes and olives and chickpeas and all those different beans. So I just took a look in my cabinet and I separated it into two. I put all of the things that were on the Mediterranean lifestyle, I shifted them to the left side, and all those things like my Spam and my other things that maybe weren't on the diet, I put them on the right side just so I can kind of take a look. I'm not going to get rid of any of that food. Of course, we're not going to throw away food, but I was consciously choosing things more from the left side and building that left side up than I was picking from the right side. In fact, some of those things on the right side, like Vienna sausages and all those treats that we like, I actually moved them up to another shelf called my hurricane supply shelf. So, there's just little things you could do to be conscious and make conscious efforts about what you're eating. So I just wanted to share my personal tips so you know that I've tried this and I can talk about it from experience. Just quickly about diet and nutrition. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of great vitamins and nutrients that we need, but please make sure before you get into any dietary supplements, any different things like that, that you really talk to your doctor, that you really look at the research there. Remember in the beginning of class, I told you how serious we take our research at the association. And I want you to think about that too. When you're looking at something on the market, is it something that has gone through research? for years. Have other people done the same research? Have there been cohort studies? Have there, all that list of different things that make it really great research. So think about that before you reach over the counter and buy something, guys. And really, our whole point of a big point takeaway from today is, how can we do this holistically? Can I actually eat something to get those vitamins instead of reaching for something else? Okay, so as always, working with your doctor is really important if you're making any of these changes. Right, guys? So don't forget, if you have questions, you can enter them in the chat box and we will address them later, but we're going to keep moving along. Thanks for still being here with me, guys. Next part that we're going to talk about is cognitive activity. And I like talking about this because there's actually quite a lot of myths out there that I like to bust. And it's a really interesting topic. We don't have a ton of research on it yet, but what we do have has been really interesting. We are going to go over the questions later, but the trick question I gave you today was about crosswords and puzzles, and we're going to learn that answer in just a minute. But what does it mean, cognitive activity? Well, it's really just keeping your mind stimulated, keeping your brain working and stimulated. What we know about when you're engaged in these activities, that keeping your mind active can form new connections among those brain cells. It can encourage blood flow because you're thinking, you're problem solving, you're doing things like that. And we know that sometimes maintaining these stimulating mental activities can improve cognition in some cases. What I want to talk about a little bit is the difference between a high quality brain activity or cognitive activity and a lower quality one. Now, things like crossword puzzles or some things you might do, puzzles or apps or things like that on your phone, those are more of lower quality type cognitive activity. And why is that? Well, because if you're in the habit of doing a crossword puzzle every day, does it still challenge you? Or are you able to do it? What we're looking for with our activities are things that are still challenging us, things that are asking us to problem solve or think in new ways. And so a lot of times, those crossword puzzles or puzzles, we can do them almost like second nature, right? And it's not really challenging our brain. So that was the trick question that I gave you guys in the survey was, do crossword puzzles prevent from cognitive decline? And the answer is no, just because although they are good for some stimulation, we're looking for really high quality activities to protect our brain. And that is something like formal education and learning new things. And we're gonna kind of just talk a little bit about this because it's been really interesting that research has shown that that people that may have lower levels of education may be more at risk for dementia and Alzheimer's. And I think this could be for a lot of different reasons, actually, quite sad. But the good thing now is that we have so many online classrooms that we can join. There's a lot of different ways we can get education for free. Just something about this. Well, let me move to the next slide and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But here's just a few things you can do. Reading is great, especially if you're reading something that's a little bit challenging for you. If you're reading something where you need to look up a word or maybe read the paragraph again to see what that concept is. So thinking about when you're reading, are you reading things that are challenging you? Are you reading articles that can make you think a little bit more? So we know that completing puzzles and games like that can be good. They're not the highest quality, but if you want to make them a little more high quality, try playing a new game. Try learning a new puzzle. Do things like that. That way you're constantly getting challenged and you're not just, completing the puzzle without thinking too much because you're so good at it already, right? Learning a new skill or a hobby. Now this is what is really great for brain health. It's when we are able to learn something like playing an instrument, learning the words to a song, things like that, playing a new sport, learning the rules, those types of things where we have to learn something new, putting together a piece of furniture, things like that involve problem solving and learning something new is a great thing for brain health. That would be a little bit more of a higher quality activity. and then engaging in ongoing learning. I wanted to mention about this. I just said there's so many online classes that you can take. And a class like this is great, but what we're looking for is a higher quality level of learning. And that would be a class that you take for consecutive weeks, because that way, the teacher or the instructor is asking you to review and kind of remember and think about what you learned from previous weeks. And so there's a lot more going on when you're involved in something more formal as far as the formal education. So in addition to all of these amazing online classes we have from the Alzheimer's Association, from Catholic Charities, one cool place that you can look online where they have a lot of different colleges. I'm currently enrolled for an online class at Harvard X, and it was free, but it's called MOOC. It's called MOOC, M-O-O-C. It's an online learning center. Also, Coursera is another one. But what you can do is you just go online, and they have all of these different classes from all of these different colleges, and you can pick anything. You can learn about photography. Long story short, guys, it's a great way to really keep learning for free. You don't have to pay money for a lot of these classes. So check out all these great places to learn online, because that's the best type of high quality activity you can do for your brain. I wanted to give a quick example about this. So a caregiver I know, her husband, he learned languages his entire life. He never stopped learning a new language. He spoke 6 languages. Now, his friends actually started developing Alzheimer's and dementia before him, and maybe in their 70s or so. They weren't learning as many languages as him. And although he did eventually develop Alzheimer's disease, it wasn't until many years after most of his friends did. Now, that could be for a number of reasons, as we know, why people age well. But the caregiver told me she really thought it was because he was learning a new language all the time throughout his retirement. So that's just an example, you know, that shows. And as I said, there is research that shows that this ongoing learning is really important. Okay, I know we want to leave a lot of time for questions. So this part, social engagement, we don't have the most research about yet, and it's a little tricky now, right? Because we're all in this COVID life, and we can't get socially out as much. And as we do know, guys, social engagement and this isolation that people are feeling with this pandemic is really having an effect on a lot of people's health, their mental health, their well-being, and everything. And so it's really cool to see this new research out about social engagement and just staying connected with people in our life and how that is good for our brain health. So we know that social engagement, doing things like volunteering in your community, meeting with your family or friends on a weekly basis, doing things even online, calling, talking on the phone, these types of engagement, people that are more and more socially engaged, it seems that they are associated with living longer lives with fewer disabilities. Now, I think that's really interesting research there. Stay engaged in the community or volunteering. It also gives you time to either learn a new skill or maintain your own skill. So you're kind of getting 2 things done in one when you're doing something social like that. Remaining both socially and mentally active, it can really help you prevent some of this onset of dementia. So thinking of now and the time we're in, it's a little bit trickier, but there's still a lot of ways that we can socially engage through the phone, online. We can send cards. So just thinking of, it's really important we stay connected for our brains, not just for our overall health, but for our brains. We're seeing more and more research that this part really contributes to brain health. So just a few tips. When we can, visit safely with friends and family, engaging with others. You know, I saw some really cool, interesting video online where they showed a person, they had all these little things connected to their brain so they could see how their brain reacted when they were introduced to a new person for the first time. And there was actually so much going on inside the brain activity just from meeting a new person. So just thinking about that, hey, maybe I could say hi to somebody new, because that's going to be a good activity for my brain. So engaging with others, meeting new people, staying involved in your community when you can, when we can get out there and volunteer, doing that, joining a group in your community. A lot of groups and social clubs are meeting online too. So just a little extra motivation for you to get connected. I know we're all kind of nearing the end of our patience with all these Zoom calls, but this is what we've got right now. So let's just keep going with it, guys, and stay connected. So putting all of these 4 pieces together is what I told you in the beginning is the best way to maximize all of your benefits. So thinking of how can I get moving and how can I, make some of these little lifestyle changes. And maybe today you can think of one thing you can do in each 4 of these areas that might help you improve your brain health and some things about your overall health as well. So today, things you can do, you can just start right after this class, or you can start later just thinking about little goals and plans for yourself, starting small, as I mentioned, doing what you enjoy and thinking about those activities that you really love. Maybe there's some things you haven't done in a while. That's great exercise, getting back into that, making healthy choices and making a plan. The workbook that I gave you guys is a great way just to jot down some of your notes and goals and plans for any lifestyle changes you think are interesting from today. And then getting support from others, as we mentioned, having not only an accountability buddy, but if people know that you're working on making some changes, you could tell them because maybe they might ask you about it and show some great support. But most of all, having fun. And I hope that you had a little bit of fun today. I really tried to make it exciting. I know it's a lot of slides here, but a lot of great information. Lastly, just letting you know, as I talked about briefly when it came to vitamins and supplements, this also comes to brain health. Be a savvy brain consumer. You guys, there's so many things on the market out there that say they'll improve your memory, they'll prevent Alzheimer's disease, they'll do all these things for you. So just if it seems too good, it probably is not true. And then just, I know that sometimes we can feel really hopeful or desperate because we want a cure, we want something to change, and that's why we may believe that some of these things will work. But just remember, as I said before, go back to the research. Can you find good evidence-based research on it? Has this research been done before? All those things. Do your research, guys. Don't waste your money on things that aren't really going to be effective. And as I said today, the most holistic approach is to try incorporating these things in your life before you reach for something over the counter. So guys, just a reminder, if you are making big changes today, talk to your doctor, your pharmacist, anybody who can guide you. As I mentioned, I'm kind of a jack of all trades here because I've got to talk about diet and exercise and all these things. And I will say that I'm not a dietitian and I'm not an exercise expert. So this is really up to you to take this information and work with the professionals in your life. Quickly, I just wanted to let you know all of our different resources. You guys, we are here to help anybody in the community or yourself if you need us. We have a lot of different online things available for you. There's places you can get information. There's places you connect with other people. And of course, our helpline. I'm going to talk a little bit about what right now, since we've kind of finished our official presentation on brain health, I will just go over, for those of you who may not know, all the things that we do. We are a pretty small team, our Aloha chapter, but I say we're small and mighty because we really do a lot. If there's a great way for you to get involved, just on this slide I can show you. We're always looking for advocates. So if you have a personal connection or a story, please share your voice and volunteer with us. You guys may have heard our Walk to End Alzheimer's are coming up on Maui and Oahu, and this is a great way for you to commit to walking 2 miles, maybe making that small lifestyle change and walking in your neighborhood that day. For those of you who don't know, of course, it's a little different this year, our event, but we're still hoping people sign up and walk in their neighborhoods with their families. And Trial Match is another way if you're interested in this research and if you want to be a part of it, you can help people and scientists by being part of a clinical trial or research. And you can find out more on our website. So quickly, guys, I don't want to show you that yet because we are going to launch the poll one more time to see if any of the answers have changed and to see how you guys did. Jody, Are you with me? For the poll launch, we'll get the post survey up, and then I will go over the answers with you.
Hello. Can
Hi,
you hear
Jody.
me? Hi. Okay, one moment. One moment, please.
So this survey is actually boosting our class up to a little bit of a higher level cognitive activity because we've got to review and remember. So here is the poll. I see it. I hope everybody else can see it. Thank you, Jody. We're going to give you guys a few minutes to go ahead and complete this poll.
You can just continue with your
Okay.
presentation.
Yeah, sure.
And
I'll
then
keep
you
going.
can go out of share screen. We'll give people plenty of time to finish the poll again.
Okay, I won't show the answers, but I will keep moving along. I think you guys can see my poll screen. Let me move it over here. Very quickly, a little bit more about just Alzheimer's disease and dementia, and really why it is so important, guys, to take care of your brain health is because not one of us on this call is immune to Alzheimer's disease. If you have a brain in your head, you could be at risk for Alzheimer's disease. So that's why I'm very thankful that you guys are here today and learning about how important it is for everybody to think about taking care of their brain. We know in our state of Hawaii, we have over 100,000 people affected by this disease. We have over 29,000 people that are living with Alzheimer's disease, and then we have 65,000 caregivers. And I think those numbers even could be lower just because of not having that data done all the time and not reaching other areas. So that's a really large number, guys, of people, and numbers keep growing. The good news is, as I said, our association, we really provide a lot. We were able to reach over 2,000 families just last year. We had close to 100 classes in the community. Now all of our classes are online for the time being. But as I said, the great thing about the association and our curriculum is everything is going to be evidence-based and research-based, right? So, so definitely feel free to look into our education programs. You can go onto our website. There's a training center with a list of different classes you can take. So please feel free to take a class sometime. And then we had a lot of support groups, over 150 support groups just in 2019 alone. So our core programs, in case you know anybody who needs our help or if you want to reach out, our programs are care consultations. And this is a one-on-one time where we talk with a caregiver or somebody living with the disease. If they have questions, if they need help planning for their future and care activities, this care consultation takes about 30 minutes and it's really in-depth, talks about anything you need to talk about. I mentioned we have a 24-hour helpline. This is available every day of the year. The number is there. You can call for anything at all, any time of day or night. Our programs and our education classes I just told you about, and please also check out the series coming up with Catholic Charities. And I will share a few more flyers for other classes that you can join. Oh, and sorry, information and referral and support groups are also things that we do. So this is kind of the bulk of our core services. I just wanted to share this for you, for any of you who are new to meeting our association today. This is our programs coming up for October. As you can see, we mentioned the research class is also coming up, but we are doing, and I'll show you on this next slide, a class with the Lanakila Senior Center as well. So on the left, you're going to see this is the series that you're in. Next class is October 21st. Really interesting research presentation. And then if you want to join our other series that we're doing with Miss Oakland over at the Lanakila Senior Center. I know it's kind of a small text there, guys, so don't squint too hard, but we are basically covering the same thing of brain health, but we explore other topics than the 4 topics we explored today. So this Friday, for example, we're going to be talking about social engagement, but we're going to do an alternative way to connect, and we're going to do some exercises to connect with nature. So just kind of an alternative way in our COVID days to do a fun activity. So there's, you're welcome to join that series as well. And of course, our series coming up on the end of this month. And then we have a fun fundraiser coming up if you want to join as well. And I can share all this info with you, but it'll benefit the Walk to End Alzheimer's if you want to take a painting class online. How are we doing with our poll, Jody?
We're fine. I'm going to stop.